Batman: Return of the Caped Crusaders is a 2016 movie based on the events of the 1966 Batman TV show. I never sat down and watched the 1966 Batman, but I am familiar with the show through references and family members watching the show. So I may not have understood every reference made here, but I did catch a lot of it. Quality. The show stars Adam West, Burt Ward, and Julie Newmar, all reprising their roles from the 1966 Batman show. This means that Batman, Robin, and Catwoman sound much older than they should, but who cares because it's the original actors. In fact, this movie came out a year before Adam West passed away, so that makes his role in this movie all the more special.
Not so fast.
But we're in a hurry, Batman!
Jaywalking is extremely hazardous.
Gosh, yes, you're right, Batman.
Quickly, Robin, to the crosswalk!
The animation is super smooth, and the character designs capture the 1966 designs really well. Then there's the story. The plots moved along very quickly, and the writing was consistent throughout the entire film. You were laughing and engaged in the story the whole time. The humor really worked for me, and I never got tired of the one-liners.
Holy entree, Batman! Holy, unholy alliance!
And like I said earlier, there were a ton of references that I recognized as references but didn't exactly understand. For example, this scene here. It's a reference to the 3 actresses who played Catwoman throughout the show. I don't know the production history of this movie, but you can tell a lot of effort went into the writing of this film. The humor, references, and even basic storytelling were all really well thought out. There's one part in the movie where the audience starts to realize that something is off with Bruce Wayne. A couple shots are slightly tilted to subtly hint to the audience that something is wrong. In fact, I would even argue that Batman's behavior slowly starts to become the embodiment of a modern definition of the character, before completely passing the modern Dark Knight version of the character altogether. I'm trying to avoid spoilers for this video, but if you watch the movie, you'll know what I mean. Characters. Bruce Wayne / Batman. This section of the video is going to be a little difficult. I'm familiar with the animated series Batman and the Dark Knight Batman, but not so much with the 60s version of Batman. You really can't compare the worlds or characters to these other versions. So, taking this Batman at face value, I think he was fine. In this movie, everyone always listens to the wise Batman, and everyone loves the charming Bruce Wayne. Nothing really stood out to me about his character or personality, but I don't think it's supposed to. This is supposed to be what I call story-based humor, more than character-based humor. What do I mean by story-based or character-based? In character-based humor, the comedy comes from the colorful personalities of the characters and how they clash with each other and their environment. I think Gilligan's Island is a good example of character-based humor, because the situations are believable, but the characters are exaggerated. This movie is closer to story-based humor because the situations the characters find themselves in are funny and outrageous. In this world, it is perfectly normal for everything to be labeled as whatever.
Quickly, to the whirly bats!
Yet we expect the characters to be rather sane. Robin / Dick Grayson. Again, there isn't much to say here about his personality. I've always liked Dick Grayson, and I love him here too. Without spoilers, you can tell this is an experienced Robin, because when he's separated from Batman, Robin is still useful to the plot. Catwoman. Apparently, there was a little bit of a will they, won't they between Catwoman and Batman in the 60s TV show. That carries over into this movie as well, and definitely adds humor and intensity to the plot.
She proves that even the most vile, depraved, and amoral villain is capable of redemption.
Gee, thanks, Batman.
Scripture reference. In a fight against Catwoman, Robin refers to her as shameless Bathsheba. I think this is a pretty inaccurate statement. In 2 Samuel 11-12, King David sees a beautiful woman bathing and invites her over for a little sleepover. After it's revealed that Bathsheba is now pregnant with King David, we run into a couple more problems. Bathsheba was married. So David and Bathsheba come up with a plan. If Bathsheba sleeps with her husband, then she can announce a pregnancy and no one would suspect who the real father was. Unfortunately for Bathsheba and David, Uriah, Bathsheba's husband, was an honorable man, a soldier even. Long story short, he refused to sleep with his own wife while his men were out fighting, so to cover up his mistake, David sends Uriah to the front lines where he dies. Then David takes Bathsheba as his wife. The story continues on as a roller coaster. Bathsheba loses the baby shortly after birth, but later gives birth to the next king of Israel, Jedediah, otherwise known as King Solomon. Bathsheba has a reputation of being a temptress. No one knows for sure whether this is true or not. 2 Samuel 11:4 reads, "Then David sent messengers to get her. She came to him, and he slept with her. Now she was purifying herself from her monthly uncleanness. Then she went back home." We see here that Bathsheba was acting in obedience to tradition and taking a bath after her monthly uncleanness. So, for starters, we know that she wasn't out bathing in attempts to lure in men. Secondly, the prophet makes it clear that the punishment is because of David's sin. 2 Samuel 12:14 reads, "But because by doing this you have shown utter contempt for the Lord, the son born to you will die." So maybe Bathsheba wasn't this infamous temptress. She remained a faithful wife to David as far as we could tell, and even made sure David kept his word about Solomon being the next king. The only recorded sin for Bathsheba was her compliance in David's sin. Maybe it's unfair to compare Bathsheba to Catwoman for Bathsheba's sake. Things I really liked. The sheer volume of references. The alliteration being dished out faster than I can process.
Holy Hindenburg!
The dynamic Dunderheads. The piratical penguin.
The new version of the original theme song in the intro and credits. The comic book intro. The funny but also strangely intense duel between Robin and Batman. And lastly, Batman's cape. Final comments. Overall, this movie is a great laugh and fun to watch with friends. It pays respect to the 1966 Batman while also mocking it. I love almost everything about this movie, and the only joke that really didn't land was the fart joke. Seriously, who let that slip into the movie? Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll be making more videos soon.